So today is kind of part two of mission and vision. And if we have guests here, and I know we do today, hopefully don't tune out. We're kind of having a family discussion, but don't tune out because everybody's input is really important. And so this may be the first time you were at this church, or maybe like Ray, you're the longest term non-member in the building. Everybody's input is valuable, and getting new ideas is always a good thing. So please try not to tune me out. Hopefully everybody can participate. So how's your vision? I'm nearsighted. I'm nearsighted. So that means if I take these off, I can see great right here. And I could see Rochelle walking right there. But if I had to read something that was 50 or 100 feet away, depending upon how big the font was, I might struggle a little bit. And I like to see, your smiling faces, so I put this on so I can just see Melissa really clearly. But I sometimes take them off too, and I can still see, just not as good. But I'm sure there was discussion around your tables. When you have a vision issue, what do? You go see a professional, and you get some help, some assistance. You take some action to fix it. And years and years and years and years ago, I started having a little problem seeing far away like that. And I didn't notice it at first. It's kind of gradual, right? I mean, usually your vision doesn't just overnight, I can't see anything. And so I went for a while, I think, kind of struggling. And then finally I went to a different doctor who hooked me up with, I think, probably a good prescription. And you know what the first thing was that I noticed after I got my contacts and a good prescription?
You can see.
Well, yeah. Be a little more specific than that.
You saw what you were missing.
What I really noticed, the first thing was trees had leaves.
Yeah.
They weren't just this big green thing, out in the distance. They actually had leaves on them. And Cindy has had a vision problem that's worse than mine. I didn't hear that, Anthony, but it's probably better that I didn't. But I can see really pretty good. I even don't tell any officers, but I actually drive once in a while without my contacts or glasses or something. I see the road signs, I'm just fine. Cindy, on the other hand, her vision was really, she had the Coke glass bottle as, glasses as a kid. And
boy, you're in trouble.
there's a good ending to this, so I'm not throwing her under the bus.
The nerve.
A couple of years ago, we decided we needed to get this fixed, and it was really cool, but some of us use, prescription glasses or contacts or something like that. Cindy went a step further, and she became the bionic girl. And actually, they took her lenses out of her eyes and inserted little plastic lenses in that unfolded after they went in there. The technology was really cool. But in the middle of the night, Cindy would wake up, and she couldn't see the clock. She, couldn't see anything. And so one of the first things that she noticed after she got these lens implants was she could see the clock in the middle of the night. She knew what time it was as she woke up. She could wander around the house at night, or any time for that matter, and she could see stuff without having her glasses on. So how we correct, our vision is different for different people, but there's a lot of different technologies out there. So what does this have to do with church and mission and vision? And it's kind of hokey maybe, but being nearsighted or farsighted means you can sometimes see things up close, or maybe you can see things in a distance. And look at it chronologically. I think some of us are challenged with seeing beyond today. We can see today maybe, but we can't see next weekend or next month or next year. We don't have a vision for the future. And then others of us are oblivious to what's going on today, and all we can think about is what might happen in the future. And so we make plans based on those kinds of visions, or how far we can see or not see. And so as a church family, how do you see us? Where are we? What are we doing? What are we doing today? What do we look like today? What are we going to look like next weekend or next month or next year? And I'm sure some of us have thought about that, especially after last Saturday talking about what's our mission. And I got some feedback during the week on our mission, and the most feedback I got was regarding what does community mean? Kate, can you put the mission statement up there? And I got a lot of feedback about community, what that means. And the definition up here that we looked at last Saturday, people who live, work, and play where we do. And so I think, Bontress, you mentioned, our community around the church here maybe really isn't community for some people, and I think that's the point you made last Saturday, right? Maybe? I don't know. Okay. Sort of, yeah. But I received several emails from people throughout the week talking about how are we defining community? And I'm not saying that I have the answer, but I think as our church has grown and evolved over the last 10, 11, 12 years, they were careful not to too narrowly define what community was, so that there was a little wiggle room. And I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. Because some folks might think, well, community is where the church is planted. The brick and mortar's right here. What's the address? 2150 West Cherry Lane?
Yep.
That's our community, the neighborhood around here. And I know for a fact that I'm one of those people that when we moved into this church and I was standing up in front talking about something, yapping on about something, that I said what would really be neat when we moved into this new building is that at some point when we left this place, the neighbors around this building would feel a loss because we weren't here. I know I said that probably several times. And so now we've been in this building, I don't know, 5 years, 6 years, something like that. And I'm not sure that that's true. I don't think they would miss this, but I'm not sure that that's really that important anymore. And the reason I say that is because more literally I think what this says, where do we live? Where do I live? Where do I work? Where do I play? And I do hang out here almost every Saturday, and sometimes during the week too, but so I do stuff here at this location, and so I think this is one of my community places. But I used to have a job, and I hung out there at least 40, 50, 60 hours a week, and so I definitely interacted with those people, and I play in different areas. Karen and I play on bikes once in a while. Cindy and I play on bikes once in a while. Anthony, one time, I think. And other people that have gone to this church in the past, and I like to ride my bike, and whether it's a mountain bike or a road bike, I have fun, and so that's a place that I play. And think about the different places that you might work or play or live. And I think that's your community, that's my community. And so, I don't know, I'm not uncomfortable, I guess, thinking that, yeah, the church location is a community, but where we each as individuals do stuff throughout the week, and it's kind of a cliche, but where we do life is kind of our communities. And so it's all over the place. So I'm not uncomfortable with that, but keep providing feedback as we go along here. So today I really wanted to talk more about our vision, which last Saturday I was trying to differentiate between mission and vision. Mission is, again, what we're trying to do to connect our community to Jesus, and the vision is kind of what that looks like, how we do that. So that's really what I'm trying to talk about today, and hopefully you'll provide a little input on that too. And I think the vision piece has more to do with that first point of connection. Because if we're trying to connect our community, the people that we rub shoulders with, however we want to define that, if we're trying to connect those people to Jesus, then what is that going to take? And that's the vision. so think about it. I mean, this is not marketing mumbo jumbo, although sometimes it might seem like it. And it depends upon probably how deep you get and all the statistics you can look at and stuff like that. But when you're trying to connect with someone or have a relationship with someone, in plain English, when you're trying to be a friend to somebody, what do?
Get to know 'em.
Do you do market research? You get out a map and figure out, okay, I'm exactly 3.7 miles away if I go this way, 3.6 miles away. I mean, you don't look at that kind of stuff. What do you do, Kathy? Kathy's good at this. What do you do, Kathy?
This is because I have a big mouth. I reach out to people. For instance, one of my coworkers was crying at her desk one day, and I couldn't her walk. And she was a new coworker, so I went over and I said, "Well, I can help you." And she had found out that her dad was possibly going to go back to prison. And so I hugged her and loved on her, and now she'll come to me and visit with me. So we have to find a way to integrate with people so that we can minister to them and they in turn minister to us. So reaching to people that maybe we don't feel comfortable reaching out to, or it's unfamiliar territory, but definitely reaching people where they're at and just being that human person willing to listen to their hurts and their fears.
So I'm going to paraphrase what Kathy said. She talks to them. It's not.
Thank you.
I knew I could get a good response out of Kathy. But seriously, when you're trying to connect with someone or build a relationship, you find some commonality or some felt need or some situation, and you talk to them. And maybe you say 3 words, "How are you?" and then you just shut up and listen. Because I think listening is part of that, but that's communication. And so when we're connecting or trying to connect our community to Jesus, like Anthony says, trying to make God famous, and he just said that again this morning, I love that. How are we making God famous? What are we doing to make that connection? How are we building those relationships? So I've got a couple of bullet points that I thought we could just discuss this morning. How do we go about building relationships? So you might do it one way as an individual, and I think as a church family, we might have a lot of similarities, but we might do things just a smidge different just because we're a group of people and not just an individual. And so I wanted to just look at some things that we might consider doing that would help us build those relationships. So Caitlin, if you could put up that next slide, that'd be great. But I think one of the things that we can do as a church family to help with that communication, with help building relationships, is to be able to plan and execute programs and events that are really geared to doing that, building relationships. And so what came out loud and clear on our church campout, which is kind of what precipitated last Saturday's conversation and again today, is what are we doing as a church about fulfilling our mission and kind of do we all have the same vision? Are we all on the same page so that we're kind of doing similar things? And it was pretty evident on that camping trip, we were just talking around a fire, that this isn't always external. This is internal as well. I mean, we need to take care of ourselves, not in a selfish way, but we need to be healthy internally so that we can have something to offer. I mean, if we're trying to attract people to a relationship with Jesus, which I think is what our mission says we're supposed to be doing, not just our mission statement, but biblically, we're supposed to be going out. It doesn't say wait for them to come into you. It says we're supposed to go, and we're supposed to baptize, and we're supposed to teach. So that's kind of our mission. And the experience is just kind of put our own words on that. But so that's why I said we need to be looking at this both internally and externally. And so my question is, what does that mean to us? How do we do that? What does that mean to you?
groups, the Random Acts of Kindness, Church Home Night, Secret Sisters, Women's Ministry, those are internal programs that there's still a few things going, but there's not everyone in the church involved.
Okay. I agree, yeah. Any other comments? Don?
Well, we should have another Revelation seminar. Like, we've never had one. I know that the mission is different from here, but do you know that in September the Pope will address Congress about abolishing the Bill of Rights? You know, we got this thing here, internal, external. The external, we got to tell them about what's coming. That Pope is going to Congress for the first time ever to abolish the Bill of Rights. That's what they're saying. They're saying that he's already got a plan to tell them, or, you know, they leaked some of it, that he wants to abolish our freedom of rights. And we got to have an old-fashioned Revelation seminar,
So
I
to pull
think.
that back to what we're talking about then more specifically is to be able to help people make a connection with Jesus, we share with them
Yeah. It could,
biblical concepts about what the Bible says about how we can be in relationship with Jesus.
it could be hippy-dippy if you want, you know, have the band up there and all that stuff, but have a Revelation seminar that's hippy-dippy. But it's got, you know, it's coming down to where the Pope is addressing Congress.
So share the message is
Yeah.
a way to do that externally. Yeah, Isla.
To connect with your community wherever you are, whether it's in your house or at work or wherever, you have to fill it in. That need can be just listening to someone, that it can be more complex than that. And that's the way Jesus demonstrated this. He met people's needs first. So we need to look at that also.
Yeah. And Carl mentioned something last Saturday, I think, that some of these things that we're talking about takes money. I think you mentioned that, didn't you, Carl? And so years ago, we set up a fund that we have called the Good Samaritan Fund. And we actually have two now. One helps our internal, our members here, and then we have an external that can help people outside of our church. And so another way to minister in a financial way to people here or outside of our church. Any other comments about that? Again, the reason I put that up there is we need to be able to know what's going on with our church members so that we can help. And so communication is a big piece of that. And then look outside too. Rochelle?
And I think too, when we're reaching outside, we need to make sure that what it is speaks to needs. And we've done things like.
I didn't hear that. What?
Speaks to people's needs,
Okay.
like in their everyday life. So like I know we've done financial peace in the past. And little things like that just touch the families is a great way to bring people.
Okay. So they need to be relevant, what
Yeah.
we're doing. Good. Yeah.
How about if we, and I mentioned this to you before, but maybe, you know, a lot of us live in different areas, and I realize it's extremely difficult sometimes to get together with others because we're so busy with school and work and whatnot. And so, maybe during the week with your friend group in your area, say you've got a group in Caldwell, you guys get together.
All right.
They have barbecues, invite people over. You live in Meridian, you do that. You live in Boise, you do that. You live in Anthem, you do that. Where we have more of Koinonia, that group of fellowship and stuff like that, and grow naturally out of that. Just inviting people over to your house and
Yep. Yep. Let's go to the next slide, Caitlin, because I'm building to exactly that too. Consistent programming, events, and activities. And I mentioned this to Cindy. She always reviews my notes, and she goes, consistency is so important. I think everything that we've mentioned up to this point, with maybe the exception of the Revelation seminar, we've done at this church. We've done an awful lot of things, doing things in different ways to connect people, both internally and externally. sometimes we're not as consistent as I think we need to be. And by consistency, I don't mean it has to happen every week or every Saturday, but we have a plan where we're doing things on a regular basis. And it might mean that we do an event once a quarter that's targeted for a specific audience or for a specific purpose or something like that. But we kind of get it on our schedule and we're doing that consistently. And maybe there's some other things that you want to share about that too. Melissa?
I know in the college we do, like, if you live in this area, let's have parties, so maybe you should have a Facebook page, you know, like, you put out, okay, Nampa people, you know, having barbecues, or something like that, using the Facebook page as our, how do we sort of call those people?
I'm sorry, some of us back here can't hear.
Yeah, Caitlin, go ahead and put the next slide up too. Well, Melissa's talking about
Social media.
making it
Okay.
easy for people to know what's going on.
Well, I'd take
And
it
so this third bullet point, convenient for people to participate. And we talked about this last Saturday and at other times too, but we were scattered all over the place. Last Saturday I asked for a show of hands and there was about the same number of people, different faces, but that's normal. And there were 4 people out of probably 40 or 50 that were in the room that lived in Meridian. And everybody else is all over the zip codes in the Treasure Valley. We've got people in, West Ada County, and East Ada County that attend here. We've got people in Canyon County. We've got people in the past that came all the way from Weezer and Payette. I think they've moved, so they're not, the drive's not quite as far, right,
No,
Jason?
not as far.
Yeah. But people drive a long distance to come to our church, and that's kind of normal for a lot of these Adventist churches in the Treasure Valley. People go past a couple churches to get to the one they want to go to. But your point, both of you that have made, all 3 of you guys are kind of talking about, not having to drive 15 miles to get to whatever we're talking about. And I think that is something we really need to work on. It needs to be convenient, not necessarily just always pushing the easy button. But it needs to be convenient so that we can do things during the week. And I don't know if you want to add some more to that or not, but I completely understand that because I drive a distance to get here as well. And I'm thinking, boy, if I could do something, as a small group or whatever you want to call it, so that I'm not driving an hour and 20 minutes on some day round trip to come here to do something, that's great. Yeah,
It's really great to have this idea that, we should be doing these things here and there, and somebody should be coordinating that. Well, who? Somebody needs to step up and take a coordinating position and say, I'm going to be responsible for making sure these kinds of things happen and for communicating it with everybody who's in my area that we're going to do this.
Yeah. No, communication is a huge piece of that. Yeah, and in the past we've had like a small group champion or manager or director or whatever you want to call it that just helps to organize them in different areas and then just kind of acts as a little bit of a coach for the leaders so that they stay encouraged and motivated and need help with materials and stuff like that. And and so I think that's at least part of what you're talking about. Yeah. Don?
Well, I was thinking, it just popped in my mind, it's kind of, different things. Why don't we sister with Oasis? And, you know what I mean? They're down there, we're over here. We could, mingle with them,
Yeah.
tell them what to, or,
Well, that's an option.
'cause they do the same music and everything.
Yeah.
And it could be it could be complementary to each other. So,
That could be something we could explore. Let's look at the last bullet point on the slide. And this is what you were saying, I think, Rochelle, but it needs to be interesting, something that would get people's attention and want to draw them in. And I know some of the weekend events that we've done in the past, I think have done that. And that doesn't have to be how you do that, but we had a healing weekend where husband and wife were just talking about how their daughter had been killed in Washington, D.C. and the healing that they went through and how they're using that as a ministry now. So I think there's a lot of people that needed healing, and we had people from the community come to that event to just hear what they had to say. we did a weekend on pornography with a pastor from Salt Lake City and had the room full of people. That's a huge issue in our society, and a lot of people wanted to come and hear what he had to say, and I think another relevant topic. We had a lot of ideas about how to be a good parent, some parenting skills, and we did a seminar. I can't remember if it was a weekend thing or just a one-day thing, but I mean, talking about that, because we have a lot of parents that not are struggling necessarily, but anytime you can get some additional tips on how to be a better parent and make life for you and your child better, I mean, that's a good thing. And we had a little crisis yesterday at our house. Both grandsons were over, the Salt Lake kid and the local kid, and the local kid smacked his lip on Grandpa's fireplace outside and cut his lip on the inside and the outside. Blood, parents are all twitchy, Grandpa and Grandma are a little twitchy, and just trying to get Junior calmed down and everything. And so, boy, if I could have gone to a class to figure out how to communicate with a 1-year-old, which I don't know if that's possible, but it's just so hard. But I mean, I know that. Any other comments just about on this? I mean, are these kind of on point, do you think, or are we missing something big here, or does this look like a good pass? Montrose.
Well, sometimes I think we get started like on a program like the pornography or the eating, but it's here, gone, here, gone, here, gone. And I think we don't have an ongoing type of a mission. And I think that's what we
Not me.
Oh,
I think that's more what we need, is something that is sustainable for the long run.
Right.
Like financial peace, you could make that like a once a year or once every 6 months type of thing, and that would be sustainable. And I think that's what you need is something that
I agree completely.
a mission that's sustainable.
And in my mind, when I said consistent on that bullet point, that's what I meant, is not necessarily a one-time thing and then everybody's healed and we're good to go and we just forget about it again. And FPU is a great example of that. And Isla and Montrose have taught that a couple times here in church and in their home and done a few things. And Cindy and I have been involved in it too. And every time, even though I've been involved in it for a couple times, every time I go through that series, I get something new out of it. I hear something new, in one of the videos or something. And so I think it's worth repeating that. And so I think you're right on target. We need to be more consistent with what we're doing and have either some kind of follow-up or refresher or do it again or something like that. Yeah. I saw another hand. Tori?
Just an idea to throw out. I've heard from Cherie Peters' program called Celebrating Life and Recovery. She's got a resource kit that her ministry has put together for churches to do. It's like a 13-week program, and it's for healing of all kinds, and it's based on the book Steps to Christ. It's got ministry materials for all ages. It might be a good thing to look into, perhaps do something like that here and see where it goes.
Okay. Good. Yeah, I think Cherie used to actually attend our church quite regularly, and so we know Cherie, and she's lived in the valley, but that would be a great resource for maybe a small group to say, hey, we're going to do this, or maybe as a church or something like that. Yeah. Any other comments? Yeah, Joyce.
Lots of good ideas and lots of good thoughts, but back to the original idea of taking care of ourselves. And the best way to do that is to pray for each other. The main thing that brought my husband and I to this church was that the people here didn't say, oh, I'll pray for you. They stopped and prayed for us right then and there. And we had a little thing going for a little while of every Wednesday night we would come just pray. It was hard though, because like you said, we're from here to there and forever. And so, just praying with your family in your home, praying about all these things on your bullet points, praying about your pastor, praying about our own relationship with God and with each other is our number one goal, I think.
Yes, good, very good point. So, Caitlin, let's go to the next slide. Which, this is kind of what Joyce was just saying. I mean, so what do we do? And the first bullet point was kind of starting that process. It's been ongoing actually for a while, but I mean, we're formally talking about it here at church. But just participate in brainstorming. The worst thing, and I am guilty of this sometimes too, but the worst thing is to sit in your home or in your car or in a church pew or a chair, and in your mind you're complaining about everything that's going on, and you never give any constructive information. All you do is just tear down, really, and not try to build up. And so I would just encourage you to build up, to participate in conversations like this, to share ideas with me or the leadership team, whoever you want to talk to or email throughout the week when you think of something. Drop us an email. Let us know what your idea is or what you're thinking. And help with the planning of what's going on. I mentioned this last Saturday, and I'll mention it again today, but in the same week I talked with 2 different people that were really passionate about getting some kind of small group, home church, something like that going in our church family. And so those ideas are out there and they're percolating, and I think something's going to come of that, and it's going to be fun to see what that is. Okay, well, let's go to the next point. Be involved. Be involved. The most discouraging thing that can happen is for a group of people to plan some things and actually schedule an event and nobody shows up. I mean, it makes it difficult to plan because if there's food involved or something like that, it's how much do you get? And then you've got all this food sitting around and then 10 people show up and you had food for 50. And so it's a waste. And just emotionally, it's hard when you plan for a lot of people, thinking that a lot of people may really want or need this relevant whatever it is, and then don't show up. So I would just encourage you, if this stuff is important to you, do your best to show up when this church has events, when any organization that you're involved in has events. Show up. Participate. I didn't have it on the screen, but another word for that to me is commitment. Are you committed to the mission of the experience? Are you committed to the vision that's being cast for the experience? Or is it not important to you? And that's a personal question, and I don't want you to answer it here right now, but if you want to talk about it one-on-one, please do. I'm happy to have that conversation. But are you committed in what's going on? Let's go to the next one, Caitlin. Have skin in the game. Short United Way story, again. You know I love United Way and I'm still involved, but years ago, as I was just getting involved, I was asked to be kind of the leader of one of the groups, and it's made up of individuals in the community, just volunteers. Nobody gets paid. I didn't get paid either. And our goal was to not collect money, but United Way has an annual campaign where money is donated by companies and individuals, and then that money is dispersed to different projects within the community. And so the responsibility of my committee was to distribute anywhere from about $1.5 million to $3 million each year. So it's not just pocket change. And so I became the chair of that, and in a conversation I was having, it came to my attention that a lot of the volunteers, and I probably had 60 or 75 volunteers that helped through that process each year, a lot of those people weren't contributing anything to the United Way campaign. And I said, so they're telling United Way how to disperse these funds, and yet they didn't even have $5 in the pot. I said, that's not right. I said, they need to have skin in the game if they're gonna help our community distribute these funds. And so over the course of a few months, I got that fixed. And I felt that was not just Ed, but I mean, that was fair. If you're gonna be telling the community where money needed to go, you needed to be invested in that a little bit. You need to have some skin in the game. You need to feel like those dollars really were your dollars. And you're part of the community. And so I would just say the same thing to our church. I mean, have some skin in the game. I have a vision that, like Carl said,